Hello. Hi, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. So I'm just making sure I have my notes out. There we go. Hey, Nathan. Hey, Aaron. How you guys doing? Did everybody have a good weekend? I had a very do-nothing weekend for myself, which I needed desperately, y'all. And it was like a rainy weekend as well, so it called for it, you know? Just having like a lounge around in the living room, lay in bed, watch movies. You know. I practiced a little bit of one of the new songs that I'll be performing in the fall, which I'm excited about. Just because even though when I recorded the demo, I'm recording with the words in front of me, I'm not going to have my words in front of me when I perform. So I got to memorize everything like Foley and make sure I can sing it live. Aaron, you said you got a new book? What book? Hey, Sandy. Good to see you guys. But yeah, it was a much needed relaxing weekend where I did nothing. Oh, also, happy Father's Day if there's any fathers in the chat. Oh, man. But yeah, I hope you guys had a good weekend. And that it's been relaxing, if not fun, you know? And he said, Onyx torn by Rebecca Yaros. Very cool. Sandy says, Willow lost. Yes, she did. What's up, everybody? We might as well get into it, right? So welcome to the General Hospital After Show. I am your host, Dion Gabriel. And man, do we got a lot to talk about today. Willow losing custody of her kids. And possibly her mind as well. Lucky leaving town to have an adventure with his son. We had Maxie and Anna playing referee for Brooklyn and Lulu, and Dante and Chase. Natalia's drunken stupidity putting her in a rock and a hard place that may result in her leaving town. But first, let's get the dumb shit out of the way. And by dumb, who else could I mean but Christina Corinthos Davis? This girl, hey Angel, this girl never learns a damn thing. She decided to go to the pool to face the trauma of falling out of a window and into that pool, which honestly is commendable. That part is commendable. It's a healthy thing to do in trying to pick up the pieces and move on with her life. Unfortunately for her, Ava was there. And she couldn't help herself but get into Ava's face about, you know, returning to the scene of the crime or whatever. And Ava got the opportunity to push her buttons some more. So that was expected. She then sees an interaction between Cody and Ava at the pool because he accidentally took her lounge chair. And I guess Christina saw some chemistry there and was like, you know what? I should hire him to seduce her and turn her against Rick so they'll be easier to conquer. Honestly, divide and conquer, definitely an effective tactic, but it's Christina running the show. So I can only assume it's going to go horribly. And Alexis tells her as such when she informs her of her cockamamie plan. Cody gets the ball rolling by returning Ava's glasses that Christina jacked from her when she wasn't looking. Brings those glasses to the art museum so he can kind of break the ice and pretend that he's interested in art. And Ava, you know, she likes her a little project, so she at the very least seems interested in teaching him all there is to know about art, since he is intrigued and wanting to know himself. And while Rick, he might be a little bit busy, not only dealing with the fallout of Michael and Willow's custody battle, which we'll get into soon, y'all. I see you guys. But you know, now that Elizabeth is single, he'll flock to her like a moth to a flame. So I'm sure they'll be easy to kind of split apart. Angel, you said you watched Willow's breakdown in court way too many times. It kept appearing on all my socials, man. Instagram, Facebook, like YouTube. And I'm not gonna lie, I watched it a few times too. We'll get into it soon. Also, shout out Katie is it McCullough? Not McCullough, that's Robin's last name. Kimberly's. Caitlin, who plays Willow. Wonderful job this week. Sorry. But yeah. So yeah, like I was saying, you know, Rick is going to flock to Elizabeth because she's single now. Because Lucky left town. So let's talk about Lucky. After this, we'll get into, you know, the Michael and Willow stuff. Well, shortly. There's like a couple of things I want to talk about first, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes and all the deliciousness of the trial and the fallout. But let's talk about Lucky for now. So just to summarize what happened recently and why he's leaving town, he proposed to Elizabeth. She turned him down. She told him it was because she knew he'd be happier on the road and she'd be happier at home. And Lucky's like, you know what? You're right. I'll go. And so this week we see him making his rounds to say his goodbyes. He has a touching goodbye with Lulu and a touching goodbye with Laura. Jeannie and John acting together is, you know, just heavenly for me to watch. I love them. They have such good mother and son chemistry. And, you know, Lucky grew up on GH as her son. And we were kind of deprived of seeing like a grown-up Lucky in Jonathan Jackson form with Laura. So, you know, as much of a flop as this return was overall, I am glad that we got to see a lot more grown-up Jeannie and Jonathan. And yeah, like they only interacted once, very briefly, with him as an adult because he came back for Tony Geary's exit to the show. But they barely had scenes together for that. So I'm glad that we got what we did get. And Laura gives her blessing, saying that, you know, I'm happy you're when you're on the road. I'm just glad that you came back for as long as you did. And, you know, kind of remade or rekindled things and made up for things that he needed to make up for. It is what it is. For the record, the reason, and I feel like maybe we talked about it a little bit on Wednesday, but the reason why this Lucky story kind of went nowhere is because nobody, including Frank Valentini, the writers, and Jonathan, knew how long he'd be able to stay on the show. You know, Frank accepted him knowing that it's open-ended, but it's like a test to see how he could handle, you know, kind of going back and forth between Nashville and LA and keeping his family life at home intact. And I guess it didn't go that well, so they kind of ended the story abruptly. And that's why they kind of put him in random stories, because they just hoped that he would just kind of be around to sort of not have a short arc, which didn't end up happening, unfortunately. Edmund, you said Willow's tears were delicious. Angel, you said, I'm glad Alexis told Christina her idea is stupid because it is. Yeah. Cody sleeps with Ava and Ava still can send you to prison. Yep. Sorry about the doggo. Edmund, you said it was the dumbest plan ever. Yep. Sandy, you said, I love how the judge listed every... Yeah, we'll get into it. We will for sure. Yeah, that's exactly what he said, Angel. Jonathan saying it was the commute was him saving face. He would have made it work if the script was better. Oh, you think that's what... I don't know. I don't know about that. It's hard to say. I mean, the writing was crap because they assumed that he'd be able to stick around to be a part of multiple stories, and there just wasn't enough time for that. They were clearly writing Elizabeth and Lucky to get back together and her to trust that he won't leave and him to not leave. That was kind of where the story was going. And then clearly this 180 was like that's just what it was. And to that end, we already seen that he was temporarily recasted because he wasn't able to commit to certain times on the show. So we didn't even get to see him at the nurse's ball because of it. So it is what it is. I guess now, that's being said, like, would you guys accept a Lucky recast? I think Jonathan had said somewhere that he wouldn't want Lucky to be recasted to continue the story. He wants to, be able to come back. But it didn't stop him before. If you know, you know. No, like, Greg Vaughn got pushed out because Jonathan Jackson wanted back. I'm sure whoever they get to continue Lucky's role, not that they will, but like if they decided to go that route, then likely, if he wanted to come back, they'd still just push out the recast out the door. So it is what it is. I wouldn't mind Greg Vaughn back in the role either, Angel. I liked Greg Vaughn. Yeah. But if they could find a different Lucky that could take on the role, I would accept that too. But yeah, like personally, I'd love to have Greg Vaughn back. But anyway, as I was saying, going back to the story, Laura gave Lucky his blessing. It seems like the whole family has accepted that he is a man that loves the open road, just like his father, Elizabeth included, and they had said their goodbyes too. And as for Aiden, they had a conversation off screen, of course, because God forbid they have scenes on screen, agreeing to go on an awesome vacation together that will bring him to Paris and Amsterdam. And we do see Aiden with Lucky, at the airport, to be fair. But we just didn't see the conversation leading up to that, which is annoying. But anyway, Lucky had tried to invite Elizabeth to go on the adventure as well, but her life is in Port Charles with no kids, apparently, because Aiden won't be there. Just her job. Not judging, passion is passion, but damn, if that were me, I would be putting another nurse in charge for a while and going on a extended vacation and making my way to Paris and Amsterdam with the man that I loved and my child. Like, think of the family bonding and the adventurous stories that you could have, the three of you. Like, even if it was just for a summer, take a break, girl. Oh, man. And to be fair, Elizabeth almost had Lucky believing she was going to do that because when they were at the airport, Lucky and Aiden, she texts him, "Wait for me," which, I would have even assumed that's likely where it was going. But really, she just wanted to make sure that he knew that she loved her. That he knew that she loved him. And gave him one last kiss goodbye. And that was it. But before they had gone to the airport, before Lucky had even gone to the airport, he had said goodbye to his friend Isaiah too, and leaves him his father's cabin that we've never actually seen before. I don't think so, at least. Not sure what the point of that was, but maybe beyond, like, giving him a place for a romance to bloom. Jordan, maybe that could be their hideout. Maybe Portia, though? I don't know. But yeah, like, why I think Portia is that a couple weeks ago, Isaiah had overheard Portia saying that she was lying to her husband. And this week, when he sees her, he confronts her on it. And she's not too happy about that. She basically tells him to mind his own business. But he's like, I understand and I will. But if you ever need to vent, I'm here. And maybe she should just vent to him. Honestly, like, I think she should take the offer. She just came back from work having her foot jacked up. Yeah, true. Then she should have extended her leave. But yeah, anyway. I don't know if Portia and Isaiah will actually become romantic at all, but if it did, I wouldn't feel even a little bit sorry for Curtis, who thinks avoiding telling him the truth as she's being blackmailed is a marriage-ending decision. But Curtis is at least trying to find a way out of this for everyone. He recruits Felicia to try and track down Jacinda, who is the lady that Nina and Portia sent to drug Drew. But yeah, he wants to find her so that he can pay her off to lie and say that he got the drugs himself. She does, Felicia agrees to track her down on the condition that if Jacinda decides to turn down his offer, he'd respect it. And he said that he would. The problem is, if she does agree to Curtis's demands, if Felicia finds her, someone out there who likes Drew, I think the only person in town that still does, knows or overheard Curtis and Portia actually talking about paying Jacinda off to do just that. So one way or the other, it won't bode well for Curtis and Portia. That person is Kai. And he tells Trina about it. Trina says that it doesn't make sense to her. But regardless, she says that they need to stay out of it and just, keep to themselves and mind their own business. But I just don't see that happening. I think that Jacinda's going to agree to do it, and I think that she's going to confess to the police. Or not confess to the police, but tell the police that Drew took the drugs himself. But that Kai is going to speak up if that happens. So, I don't know. Angel, you said Jordan letting a good man slip through her hands again. Sigh. Yeah, I agree. What a waste. All to just spy on Sidwell. But yeah, I don't see this ending well. Drew's probably going to get the upper hand in that situation. And since we're talking about Drew, I think it's only right that we get into the custody hearing. Sandy says Kai is not going to let it go. No, he won't. Especially if he sees what could happen. But yeah, let's get into the custody stuff. So we started this week by watching Drew stoop to an even lower level than he's ever been, by making sure that Wiley overheard him telling Rick that Michael doesn't want or need Wiley anymore because he has his baby with Sasha. And Wiley tells Michael what he overheard his Uncle Drew saying, just when he was on the heels of asking Willow if they'd agree to share custody. And obviously, when Wiley tells him this, all bets are off, and he goes for full custody and scorched earth. And so they take their battle to the courtroom, where each respective lawyer rips both Michael and Willow to shreds as much as they could. Neither Michael nor Willow really knew who the judge was going to favor. I mean, the girl Michael cheated with did have his baby right on the courtroom floor, and Michael's father's life could have certainly factored in, considering why he got injured. And Willow, well, she did a lot of stupid shit besides her affair, where the kids and Michael were either only a secondary thought or not even a factor. But Drew reassured her that she had this in the bag. Michael was so unsure that if he lost full custody, he made a plan to flee with the kids from the country. Thankfully, it didn't come to that, because when push came to shove, Willow lost custody of her kids, and it had nothing to do with the affair and almost everything to do with what Drew suggested Willow should do the entire way through this whole situation. And the judge laid it out pretty clear as well. She said because of the fact that she moved her kids around 4 different times in a 6-month period, carried her kid across state lines without informing the father, which is illegal, assigning Drew emergency custody if anything were to happen without informing the kid's father, also illegal, and trying to paint Michael as a neglectful father while he was recovering in a burn unit that was giving him the best possible care and not bothering to be the one to arrange the kids keeping in touch with him, because the rest of the family had to do that. And, in terms of Michael is fully healed from his injuries, supposedly. And he's willing to be there for his kids 100%. He's got so many relatives that can help take care of the kids on top of that as well. And frankly, you know, it's just a better choice in that situation. Willow has no family except for Nina, who's not exactly the most stable person, and Drew, who, you know, is a politician. So that just brings a whole heap of trouble in itself. But yeah, so yeah, she lost custody of her kids, and Willow was genuinely shocked and didn't quite understand what happened. Rick was like, "You lost, Willow." And she had a full-on meltdown saying, "But Michael cheated first." Girl, no, he didn't. He only got drunk and had a one-night stand because you cheated on him. So yeah, like, yeah, he slept with someone first, but you were cheating on him. You were making out with his uncle. You were having an emotional affair. It's on you. But again, none of that factored in. Couples cheat. It doesn't factor into, you know, parenthood. Angel says, Drew the child abuser. And Aaron says, yeah, that was disgusting. Yep, it sure was. That was vile, what Drew did to Wiley. I'm just mad because, like, why didn't Willow confront Wiley and ask him what he heard? Why didn't Michael put Wiley on the stand to point that out? Not that it mattered because he still won custody, but like, why isn't that factoring in? And also, you know, like, what was brought up at one point was Willow going all the way to Germany to discuss with Michael custody of the kids, which Michael had no clue about for obvious reasons. Like, why? Like, I don't know. why aren't people questioning things that aren't making sense? Why are they just kind of letting it go? Like, that would really bother me. And if Willow wasn't of sound of mind, she would be confronting Wiley. You know, like, at the very least, she would be confronting Wiley because she wants to prove that Michael was lying, which she wouldn't. But like, why else would she, like, would Michael just do a complete 180? And even Nina tried to point that out. Hey, Brooklyn. Nina tried to point that out. So it's like, and it didn't register with Willow's brain at all. But yeah, certain parts of the story just drive me nuts. But yeah, Willow begged Michael to, like, say, you know, to the judge that, oh, the kid needs their mom, blah, blah, blah. And Diane just made sure that she got him out of the room quickly. Michael, Carly, and Jason obviously felt really bad for Willow, but still thought it was necessary until Willow gets her shit together. Sandy says, always believe your children. The question is, would she? Like, if she were to confront Wiley, would she believe it? I think that there was possibility that she could believe it, because Wiley would be like, well, yeah, I heard Drew telling Uncle Rick this, and then they could confront Rick. Or, you know, and had she done that at the park when they were there together, they could have been brought up at the custody hearing, and they could have put Rick on the stand, you know? Brooklyn says, hi, Dion. Willow's heart and her emotions was what? Hi, Brooklyn. Kaiwan, your theory is wrong. Michael was genuinely shocked that he lost custody. That's why he made a plan to escape the prison. Watch the actual show, and you might actually see that instead of making up cockamamie conspiracy theories. But yeah, always believe the children. Angel says, Willow is one of those women that will excuse her child being abused because her man said it didn't happen. I would hope not. But, you know, he's brainwashed her so good that he might. I mean, she was in a cult. Like, that's just the mentality that she had. Realistically, Willow should have been in therapy a long-ass time ago. Because the girl didn't even go to therapy when she found out her child was actually dead. She just latched on to Wiley And everyone just accepted that. And that always kind of bothered me too. It always bothered me because I'm like, that's not normal. That's not good. And everyone was just okay with it. And then Michael gave her or let her adopt him. And I just, like, that was kind of the moment where Willow started to lose me as a fan, I think. So, long before the Drew stuff, you know? Like, I don't know. This girl needs to just get help in so many different ways. Willow's emotions with Drew, okay. Edmund, you said, I can't wait till Willow finds out Drew slept with her mother. I agree, and I don't, like, it's just getting on my nerves that it's still a secret at this point. Willow already lost her kids. You might as well rip off the Band-Aid and tell her everything. But anyway, Willow, by the way, ends up being hospitalized because she fainted at the court room afterwards. She is barely coherent when Elizabeth tries to talk to her and settles her into a room. And Elizabeth tells Drew and Nina, like, we're getting her a psychiatric checkup as well because she doesn't seem coherent. Nina and Drew were sitting around, and Drew's like, I should go in there and be with her, despite Elizabeth saying that she should rest and be by herself. And Nina rips him to shreds, y'all, and points out that he is the reason she lost her kids. And I love that he tries to talk over her, and she just yells, listen! Like, I loved it. I was like, damn, Nina. Like, I had to give her a round of applause for that. But, like, you know, he's either in denial about why Willow lost the kids, or just doesn't care that he's the reason. Because it seems obvious. Like, the judge laid it out pretty crystal clearly that it was like, I mean, the judge really had no way of knowing this, but, like, everything that the judge listed was something that Drew suggested Willow to do, right? He suggested that she gets out of the Q mansion so that they can be together. You know, he suggests that she leaves Nina's house so that, you know, Carly and the Qs can't get to the kids that easily, and that they can just be together. He's the one that suggested she bring Wiley along to DC for his speech or whatever. Like, everything that she lost the kids for was because of something Drew suggested. If she just, like, listened to, like, her own thoughts, or, like, her family, her friends, everything that everyone else was warning to her, she would have probably gotten custody of her kids. Hell, they probably would have shared custody. It probably wouldn't have gotten as ugly if she would just listen to herself. Yeah, Nathan, you're right. It's also on Nina too. Don't get it twisted. It is on Nina as well, because perhaps if Nina just admitted to their affair super early on in like the Drew and Willow relationship, it might have gotten through to her. It might have gotten through to her that he is just a garbage person that does not have her best interests at heart either. You know, basically, Drew only sort of pushed Willow towards Nina so that he could gain some sort of strides in politics. And Nina used Drew to get closer to Willow because he convinced Willow to soften on Nina. So, like, they both manipulated her from the jump. And then Drew started having an affair with Willow and Nina at the same time. So it's like, I don't know. Kaiwan, you gotta stop living in denial, man. I don't know what to tell you. The reason she lost the kids is exactly what they listed. Everything she did was illegal. She illegally got the kid over the state lines without the father's permission. She illegally assigned Drew as the emergency custody without Michael's consent. So that's the reason why she lost. Sorry, sucks to suck, but you need to accept that and move on, because I don't even know, like, the fact that you can't see that is, like, sending off alarm bells in my head, man. Like, just use common sense, man. Use common sense. That's all I gotta say. But anyway, Drew's final attempt to get Willow her kids back, or no, not his final. So okay, so basically, let me rewind things. Martin ends up back in town, and Drew has a conversation with him because technically he was supposed to be their lawyer originally. We'll get into why he had to leave in a minute. But yeah, basically, he's like, Martin, there's got to be something that we can do so that Willow can get her kids back. And Martin's like, no, the judge made it clear why she lost them. And it makes perfect sense. She did stupid shit, and it cost her children. And like, he's like, even Martin is like, yeah. Like, all those things, of course the custody is going to Michael. But yeah. So, and then when he realizes that Martin can't help him, Drew's final attempt to get Willow's kids back is to bring Michael a proposal through Jason. It hasn't happened yet. We don't know what the proposal is yet either. But when Drew makes a suggestion, Jason's just looking at him like, bitch, are you serious? We don't know what the proposal is, but I don't see Jason agreeing to it. Sure, like dead ass. I think that that's probably gonna backfire on Drew. Sandy said Drew's main goal was to destroy Michael and Willow was easy prey. Willow was easy prey. Yeah, I don't know. But, you know, and Nina said, like, if you really loved Willow, you would leave because you are the reason she lost her kids. You're the reason why she's in the state that she's in, because she listened to you through and through, and it cost her children. Like, and, you know, if Drew really loved her, then he would let her go. And, you know, like, to Drew's credit, he actually thought about it for a minute. And then he's like, nah. Like, what a trash human being. Trash human being. Is that emergency custody thing with Drew still valid now that Michael has custody? I would hope not. At the very least, they should probably get that dealt with, and I'm sure that they will. I mean, Diane already knows about it. So, I'm assuming it's handled, but if it's not, then it needs to get handled. But yeah, anyway, let's get into Martin for a second, because Martin is back in town after his wife's put him through the ringer in court and made him bleed every last drop of his money, courtesy of Tracy Quartermain. And now, because he's desperate for money, he's looking for clients, and one person he has his sights set on is Tracy, because Drew has plenty of ways to make beating the charges of her drugging him, which he framed her for, you know, making that hard for her to beat. But he's, you know, Martin's willing to help, but it's going to cost her. I'm assuming these two are eventually going to get together down the line, and that's assuming that they, you know, the writers allow Marty to be in town for long enough to form a relationship. Because I swear, it feels like he'll show up for like a couple of weeks, and then they just banish him for like 5 months. Like, it seems to be the pattern with him, and I don't know if it's just like the actor's availability, but like he basically has become like a guest starring role, who's like here every once in a blue moon. He's like Brick, you know. He doesn't really have a whole lot to do when he's in town. They have him in for a couple of episodes, and then he disappears again. Oh, you might be right, Angel. It could be null and void. Because Willow doesn't have custody of the kids anymore. Yeah, you're right. So it is null and void. It doesn't matter. But yeah, speaking of characters who disappear and reappear, Natalia has herself in a bit of a bind. If you recall, she got arrested for a DUI, and it wasn't her first offense. So it could cost her up to 5 years in prison unless she takes a deal that DA Turner offered her. and that deal is to turn in any evidence that she has on Sonny Corinthos. And, you know, she does give Sonny the heads up that that's been offered to her. And Sonny's like, well, I made sure that you didn't know anything. And Natalia's like, well, yeah, but I handled Deception's financials, and there were slight discrepancies here and there. And while it doesn't look like much, it could give Turner a window to open up an investigation on all of his financials, which would get him in trouble. So again, they did find her in, you know, they find themselves in a complicated situation. But yeah, Natalia is so sure that Sonny wouldn't hurt her because of what their friendship was like beforehand. And like, he clearly doesn't want to, but I feel like he would. If she did turn that evidence in, like, he would probably, or if he knew that she was going to do that, he would probably disappear her. And yet his plan is to essentially disappear her, but just not kill her. But like also kind of lays it out for her. So, he had talked things over to Jason and kind of thought about logistics of it. And then she calls him, or he calls her, sorry, to his little restaurant that's a front and says, here's my offer. You know, the only way out of this for everyone is if you leave town, you disappear, we give you a new name, and then we're all good. And, you know, Sonny said that he'll make sure that she's well taken care of. And I believe that he would do that for her. But that would mean for Natalia to leave Marco behind, never talking to him again, or Allie for that matter. Not that they really want to talk to her, but she's not loving the idea of that being like a permanent situation. I think she'll take it though, because she seems like the kind of woman that would rather live a life of luxury away from her kids that don't want anything to do with her anyway, than actually take accountability for her actions. So I'm sure rumors of Eva LaRue leaving the show are likely true. There are rumors apparently. It seems like the writing is on the wall for it to go that way. She really has not much of a story on the show to begin with, especially with Allie being in town and Marco wanting nothing to do with her. And Natalia doesn't seem like she's learned on how to sort of handle her kids' sexuality. I don't think she's as closed-minded anymore, but like, she just doesn't take the relationships seriously and just dismisses their sort of relationships as like frivolous. So, you know, sucks to suck, but that's the situation. And like, there's just like, what else is there for her? She can, like, I suppose, get into Sidwell's corner, but I don't know. She just doesn't seem necessary. And Eva LaRue is like kind of a get for GH in terms of like an actor, like a well-renowned actor. And, you know, keeping her around for essentially nothing is probably costing them a lot. So, you know, to that end, you know, we freed up some money with Jonathan Jackson leaving and potentially with Eva LaRue leaving. And we're getting like another, first of all, we're getting Kelly T-Bode back. Hey, Aisha. You said it's suspicious that after decades of successfully donating and investing Sonny's legit money, his money guy screws up. No doubt. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I don't know. This Kelly T-Bode's coming back. Not as Brit, probably. I'm guessing. It'd be weird if she did. And I forget the other actress's name, but a well-known soap actress is going to be having a bit of a guest role. Temporary one. Soon. So it's freeing money up for stunt casting, which is fantastic. That's been like kind of my main issue with Frank Valentini, to be honest. Like, he's very much into stunt casting and bringing on these like really well-known actors in the soap industry and giving them nothing. Like, you know, like he just wants them on the show and then doesn't really think much ahead beyond that. So we shall see. We shall see. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where Erica Slezak. Thank you, SLJ. Yeah, I recognize her face. I've seen her pictures. Vicky from One Life to Live. So it makes me wonder if she's going to be Vicky from One Life to Live, because it's not the first time that, you know, Frank's brought on One Life to Live characters on GH. Yes, he got sued for it, but the lawsuit is over. And so we've seen One Life to Live characters make cameos since. Maybe she will be Vicky. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, I guess the only thing left to kind of talk about on the show, or from the show, is the Brooklyn and Lulu situation. Things are getting ugly. Brooklyn is out for blood, and Lulu's delusional enough to think that she did nothing wrong. And Maxie tries to put the two of them together in a room to hash it out. And from what we've seen so far, it ain't working very well. You know, like, Brooklyn's out for blood, for revenge, and Lulu's delusional enough to think that she did nothing wrong. So it's like, it's two stubborn heads, kind of like, I don't know, they're just not gonna budge. Lulu and Brooklyn are not gonna budge. Vicky owns the banner where Lulu works. Oh, so it probably will be Vicky. Okay. All right. But yeah, so Maxie tries to get them in the room together. She invites them over separately to her house to try and hash things out. And, tries to be like, listen, you guys have loved ones that this is affecting, loved ones that you have in common. You need to find some solid ground. I don't see it happening. Also, I cannot get over Kaiwan. I'm about to block you. Like, this is nuts. All right. Where was I? All right. So, oh yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there just because, like, we've moved on. Keep up. Anyway, I cannot get over how 2008 coded Maxie is right now. Like, the haircut, the fashion, and, like, elephant in the room. If you know, you know. She's lost some weight, likely because of Ozempic. She looks so much like her, like, early 20s self, and I think the haircut is a big part of it. But, like, the fashion, they're finally putting her in, like, the kind of clothes Maxie used to wear, and it kind of makes me mad because, like, you can be fashionable no matter what size you are. And they just had Maxie in the most ridiculous things for, like, the longest time. I think part of that was Kirsten Storm's choice. She had talked about it. But, I don't know. I missed Fashionista Maximista. So she, like, it's like watching, like, 2008 version of Kirsten Storm stepping out of a time machine and just walking into the set of GH in 2025. It's so surreal to me. I'm just like, I can't. Sandy says, Maxie looks good. Yeah. Like, honestly, low-key, I kind of want her to turn into a wrecking ball again. And start messing up people's lives for fun. Just because, like, the nostalgia of it all, you know? Yeah, time loop. Exactly, Angel. It's like... It's crazy. It's crazy. Lord. But yeah, Dante and Chase are going through something similar, by the way, in terms of what Brooklyn and Lulu are dealing with. Dante can't seem to remain professional at his workplace when it comes to Chase, he's mad that he kept his wife's confidence, which makes him, you know, kind of an idiot. Because, like, if the roles were reversed and he was married and it was his wife's secret, like, of course, like, he would respect his wife's wishes. But yeah, it's affecting their work. Anna tried to talk sense into him, and it didn't. It's like it went through one, you know, into one ear and out the other. So all hell breaks loose in the main office of the PCPD. Anna walks in on it, and she decides to throw them in jail, to hash it out in a jail cell. Not like she didn't arrest them. She just, like, walks them there and, like, puts them in there. Be like, hash it out. Like, talk, deal with it here. When you guys are ready to be professional, like, come to me. So that's what we're going to see on tomorrow's episode on GH. Angel says they can't dress BLQ either. You can be modest but dress well. I do it all the time. Yeah, I just remember, like, the 2000s, just, like, the fashion on GH was, like, bomb, man. Like, everyone dressed so fantastically. Their hair and makeup were always on point. Like, I think straight away yes to, obviously, to Kirsten Storms, because she, you know, her whole life, Maxie's whole life at that point was all about fashion. It was all about fashion. It was her passion. And it showed within what she wore. But, like, also, like, Kelly Monaco, like, the things that they had her wearing throughout her time on GH, especially in that era, when she was, like, kind of bad girl Sam, like, they dressed her gorgeously. Her hair was, like, you know, like, light brown and, like, with highlights, and, like, she just looked fantastic. Like, I don't know. They knew how to dress the women. I feel like the only, like, fashionable person that we've seen kind of consistently throughout this Frank Valentini era since 2013 is Maura West as Ava Jerome. She always looks rich and fashionable, always. And it's like, I feel like Ava has an established style, and it hasn't wavered in any way. So, like, they're capable, but it's like they just don't do it. I don't know. Maxie's so pretty, yeah. But yeah, you know, so Dante and Chase and Brooklyn and Lulu are in a rumbling cage, and, you know, they're being told to hash it out, and I don't know who's gonna come out on top, but it's like, I don't know. There's just a lot of stubborn heads in that room. If anything, Chase is probably the least stubborn. Chase is, like, willing to be professional and, like, you know, do his job properly. Dante just won't, like, let it hit. Dante has a lot of nerve. He never mentioned to Chase about his past with Brooklyn. Yeah, that's true. Hypocrisy, man. It's insane. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of all there was to talk about. I enjoyed the week. I felt like they unnecessarily drew out the conclusions of the trial more than it needed to be, but we got the result, so it is what it is. We're moving on. Edmund, you said, I like Lulu, but I can't believe her gall. Yeah, I'm kind of like that too. Like, girl, and even Maxie's like, you ruined so many people's lives, and you're saying you did nothing wrong, girl. Like, what I've always loved about Maxie and Lulu's friendship, is that they know each other so well that they can call each other out on each other's bullshit, because they both have had plenty to dish over the years. And I love that Maxie was like, you know, I wrote the book. Like, I wrote the book on scheming and manipulating people's lives and using it to my advantage and all this stuff. So, like, you can't like, you can't trick me or convince me that what you're doing was a good thing. It wasn't your truth to tell. And, you know, if you weren't trying to hold it over Brooklyn, you would have just told Dante the truth the second you found out about it, girl. But yeah. yeah, not much left to discuss. Wednesday, we'll be live streaming Wednesday. And I talked about how I was never able to find Alan dropping a house on Monica and Rick. Found it. We're going to watch it on Wednesday. So it'll probably be a short live stream, but we're going to watch that scene because it is one of the most iconic scenes on the show. And I feel like we've probably watched it like way back in 2020 when I was doing like reactions to old episodes, back when GH wasn't on the air. But it's been 5 years, so we're going to watch it again. And if you didn't watch it the first time with me, we'll watch it together. Beyond that, I don't know. I've got nothing else to share, really. And you said Lulu has nothing to apologize for. Gio overheard Lulu say it. She didn't tell Gio face to face. Maybe not, but she was kind of forcing, what do you call it? Lois to do the same. So if Gio didn't find out, then he would have found out the next day. And it would have blown up his life regardless. But, you know, it is what it is. And it's also the fact that, like, Lulu doesn't regret Gio finding out that way. Because she could have saved that conversation for, like, outside of the nurse's ball. She could have waited a day. But she didn't. Brooklyn the Cowardly Lion should have told Dante, period. That's true. The house dropped. Yeah, dropped a roof on them. Dropped a house. But yeah, we're gonna watch that Wednesday. Beyond that, thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. If you liked this live stream, give it a big old thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to. I'd really appreciate it. We're at 1,070, y'all. I'm stoked. And, you know, I'm seeing new faces every day, so I'm excited. But yeah, I will catch you guys this Wednesday for a classic reaction to an iconic scene on the show. Yeah, enjoy your week. I will see you then. Have a good night, everyone. Mwah.